starting with Mr. Damien. Damien, Mr. Kurek. Sorry, Damien.
Thank you very much,
Please
Madam
begin.
Chair.
6 minutes.
Thank you, and Ms. Tate, thank you for coming back to committee. I find it interesting, in your opening statement, you did not mention the reason why you were called back to this committee, and that is the $18 million in bonuses that CBC paid out. $18 million in bonuses.
Order, Madam Chair.
Yes, is that Mr.
There are two things. One is the sound online is cutting in and out. We're not getting half of what's being said when Mr. Kirk is speaking. So I don't know what we can do to fix that. But well, I'm going to stick to that one because it's very hard to actually hear what he was saying. So I don't know if it's his mic or if it's the room. It was happening a little bit with Madame Tate, but with Mr. Kirk, it was pretty hard to decipher.
So should we suspend a bit until we figure this out?
I'm
sorry.
To keep going.
I'm sorry, Damien. Sorry, Ms. Tate. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And Ms. Tate, thank you for joining the Heritage Committee again. And I find it interesting in your opening statement, you didn't mention the $18 million in bonuses that were paid out. And certainly when I speak to and hear from thousands of Canadians.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Okay, if this is the game that the Liberals simply don't want to talk about the bonuses,
Mr.
then
Kurek,
at least be honest
Kurek,
about
there's
it.
a point of order. What is it, Mr. Nur Mohammed?
Well, there are two things I would now say. One is that Mr. Kirk now knows me well enough to know that this is not about playing games. We did have, and we still seem to have, some crackling on the audio, pointing that out. However, I did want to make sure that we are clear about what the mandate of Madame Tate's appearance was today, and I understand it was from the House order in respect of the cuts to the CBC, not about bonuses. I just want to be clear about what it is that the discussion today is supposed to be about.
Thank you, Mr. Nur Mohammed.
Certainly wasn't a point of order. And again, it seems like the Liberals are terrified, like Ms. Tate, about talking about the $18 million in bonuses that were awarded to individuals at the CBC. Now, Ms. Tate, in your opening statement, you asked for more money. Yet the last time more money was awarded to the CBC, it went to bonuses. As a show of leadership from the top, can you, and I'm going to, this was asked to you before, and you didn't answer clearly, so I'm going to give you another opportunity here today. Will you categorically reject any bonus that is offered to you as your tenure as the CEO of CBC comes to a close?
Madam Chair, there were a number of questions in that question, if I may.
I heard that, and I really wanted to correct the idea. If the committee wishes, I can reread the motion. It is about cuts to CBC and the impact of defunding the CBC. That's one of the things that was clear. It was not about bonuses, because if you recall, Ms. Tate was here not too long ago talking about bonuses. So I think we should read that I will read it provided now, including how the Liberal threat to cut funding led to hundreds of CBC Radio Canada job cuts and the effects on smaller communities as promised by the leader of the official opposition and the consequences of defunding the CBC. That's clearly what the motion says.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And look, I think that it is clear that Ms. Tate, in her opening statement, asked for more money. And Conservatives do not believe that if the leader at the top of the organization is unwilling to make a commitment to say that they won't accept a bonus to what could be the tune of hundreds of thousands of taxpayers' money at a time when people are being laid off. The last time the CBC asked for more money, they paid out more bonuses. Ms. Tate, to you today, out of respect for the organization that you've led over the last number of years, will you reject, if offered, a taxpayer-funded bonus?
Madam Chair, I've appeared at this committee now 5 times, and I believe that I have more than adequately responded to questions about performance pay. I do want to correct the record. The funding that CBC Radio-Canada received, the $42 million, went to save 454 jobs of the 800 forecast jobs that were needed to be cut. So just to be clear, that money went to save jobs.
So just imagine, you say that it went to save jobs, yet still $18 million in bonuses were paid out. $18 million of taxpayers' money went out in bonuses. Ms. Tate, your tenure at the CBC is coming to a close at the beginning of January. Will you commit to not take a taxpayer-funded severance at the conclusion of your tenure?
Let me say, just to clarify, the $18 million was an obligation that the corporation had to the unaffiliated employees, the 1,180 unaffiliated employees. We have a payroll of close to $900 million. If the member believes that we make decisions about performance pay in a frivolous fashion, I have to correct him. These dollars on payroll are put in place at the beginning of every year. So to suggest that funding that was provided at the end of the year was used in that way is simply incorrect.
So $71,000 on average per executive? That's more than the average Canadian makes. Madam Tate, you make more than the Prime Minister makes, yet you refuse to reject a taxpayer-funded severance. So again, I ask the question to you today, Madam Tate. Will you reject a severance paid for by taxpayers at the conclusion of your term as CEO of CBC?
As I've told this committee repeatedly, I have not received performance pay since 21-22. And given the terms of my compensation, like all other GIC appointees, every president and a CEO of every crown includes salary and performance pay. I leave that decision to the government.
But you could reject that today, yet you won't. So as we come to, how much time do I have left?
A minute, but I was going to say, I think I've heard this question asked at least 10 times at this committee in the past. So Ms. Tate has answered it. Would you like to move on, Mr. Kurek?
Thank you, and I will move on by simply saying this. I think that Canadians, and Madam Tate, you said in your opening statement that you speak to Canadians on a regular basis, and internal emails suggested that you sent and that were accessed by Access to Information, said that there's momentum growing on the defund the CBC movement. And your appearance here today, as has been the case over the last number of appearances that you've made, it's certainly not surprising as to why that is the case. There's decreased trust in the public broadcaster, revenues are down, ad revenue is down, and most importantly, viewers. There are fewer viewers watching your programming. It is, do you have any regrets, Madam Tate, over your tenure as CEO of the CBC?
Ms. Tate, you have 30 seconds.
Madam Chair, may I address the untrue accusations of the member? Every media company in the country is cutting jobs. Our industry is in crisis. In our case, we forecast 800 cuts. And in the end, we worked hard to make sure that the lion's share of those were vacancies. 205 vacancies were cut. So I do believe that we're talking about the wrong things here. Digital revenue has tripled since I began at CBC Radio-Canada. Viewership is, in fact, up on digital platforms because, with all due respect to the member, television viewing in general is down. So I would just say, let us focus on the facts. I provided all the members with this excellent document prepared by my staff on the facts around CBC Radio-Canada. And I really urge you to spend the time to learn about Canadians' viewership behavior. They are online. Canadians are watching CBC on YouTube, on connected TVs.
Thank you, Ms. Tate.